Hello, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. My name's Disco, and I'm coming at you from the Pacific Northwest. If you bear with me for just a moment, I am going to be posting some notice of this stream in a couple different Discord threads before we get going. Just try to maybe build up some viewers here. In the meantime, I hope you are all doing really well. I know I am. I'm looking forward to my weekend. So, what this session is going to be is the absolutely brand spanking new launch of a new series. What we're doing is leveling up your existing games. How this is going to work is that in each episode we consider an existing RPG that's either well known or popular, but famous enough to where it's got a lot of players or people know about it. In this case, Numenera. And we're going to talk about how you can level up your experience. Make it more streamlined, in other words. And how we're going to do that is first off get to know Numenera. I know that it's got a second edition. In fact, I own the second edition. It's a 2-book set called Discovery and... what is it called? But there's 2 of them. However, I got it from the Humble Bundle... and I can't find it on my hard drive anymore. And when I went to re-download it from the Humble Bundle, it's been X amount of years, and they don't have it anymore. But that's okay. They're mechanically more or less the same game. The first and second edition are both the cipher system of games, just with some refinements. And Numenera, the first edition, is a fine book. It's got some really cool lore. The elevator pitch for it is basically, if you've ever heard of Gene Wolfe's novel series, The Book of the New Sun, it's basically that. Earth, several billion years in the future, several ages past. Numenera refers to some sort of artifacts that the populace think are magical, but everything's really the long-lost, buried, and broken technology of previous civilizations. You can play just about anything you want. It's pure creativity, and I really love most of this game. To level it up, and we'll get more into it in a second, but we're going to look at this. This is 2400 by Jason Tachi, who is a super cool dude. And 2400 is a series of small games. When I say small games, I mean 4 pages in a PDF, one of which is the cover. Some of them are interconnected. You go to itch.io, and if I was thinking, I would have linked to it. But you look up 2400 Jason Tachi on itch.io, and you will find it. It's... last I checked, I think it's about $5, but you get about a dozen games. Jason sometimes adds more games to it. In fact, like Exot did not originally, was not part of the original series, but I believe you get it when you purchase it. It's really cool. Exot is essentially a 3-page version of Numenera. And please don't take anything of what I'm about to say as a knock against Numenera. Numenera is the game that I probably GM'd the most. I've done, before COVID, I used to GM it at Guardian Games in Portland on Free RPG Day annually. That was my tradition, and I loved doing it. I haven't been able to since COVID, unfortunately. But I was part of the Monty Cook Games asset team, and I think I still might be. So there is a relationship with it. But I feel you gotta trust me on this. If you are playing a game of Numenera, or you want to play a game of Numenera, you will get optimal results if you combine your core book with the rules of 2400. And here's why. So, Numenera had a pretty revolutionary character creation system when it came out. It's so easy. Gosh, look at this art. Can you look at this art for a second? It's beautiful. Everything's meant to be weird. Everything's meant to be fantastic. Again, I mentioned Book of the New Sun, which, if you're not familiar, it starts out seeming as a fantasy book, but it's really a far future science fiction book. Pretty interesting. This is a clear, it serves as a clear inspiration. Perhaps also maybe William Hope Hodgson's The Nightland definitely serves as an inspiration to Numenera, and you can see a few other authors' works in it, but those are the big ones. Jack Vance's Dying Earth. Now, I am, if you know me, I'm a man who loves simple games. I love when a rule set fits on a single sheet of paper, two pages. In Jason's case, he always makes it so that all the rules fit on 3. But I don't hate big books. I love it when you can put the whole rules on 1 or 2 sheets, and then you can have a 1,000-page book if you fill it up with useful lore, GM tools, NPCs if your game needs NPCs with stat blocks, story generator, solo tools, all that kind of thing. Wonderful. Make your book as thick as you need. Keep the rules super simple. So, I find that Numenera is more intuitive than, like, say, your 5th edition, and definitely more than, like, Mathfinder. But it still doesn't quite hit that sweet spot for me. You're rolling a d20 for most things, so that'll sound pretty familiar. And this is like the golden rule of Numenera, or one of them. No XP from combat. XP comes from discovery. Beautiful. But I'll show you the coolest part of Numenera and of the cipher system. You see here, it's called cipher. You've got a section here, ciphers. You're meant to pick up small one-time use artifacts in just about every encounter, carry them with you for a little bit, use them, toss them. That's not the coolest part, but that's just an explanation. Character creation, okay? You can create a character about as quickly as you can describe your character. For instance, the archetypical any character of a cipher system game is going to be, I am an adjective noun who verbs. That's it. Your character starts with some pools, some stats that are defined originally by your type. First, your descriptor and your focus. So you get your descriptor first, which is, well, you say it first, but your type is your class. There's glaives, which are warriors. There's jacks and nanos. Jacks being like rogues or experts, and nanos being wizard types, except everything here is run by, nanotechnology, not really magic. Your starting class gives you a pool, might, speed, and intellect. You get these points, and you spend them to activate abilities. They're also your HP, which is cool, but it's something that I personally bounce off of kind of hard. You get these awesome, fantastic characters, for instance. Once you have your type, you get a descriptor, which gives you a little bit of, like, it's kind of your background. It would be probably your character's race if you were playing, like, D&D or one of those. Charming, graceful, intelligent. They give you modifiers to your pools, some skills you're trained in, a weakness, some new equipment, and then a random or chosen little background thing that ties you in with the rest of the group. Pretty cool there. And then you get into the focus. And the focus is like a flavor for your character. Bears a halo of fire. This was the first one I ever saw when I cracked open this PDF, and it's wild, okay? So you can be a charming glaive who bears a halo of fire. And that is, someone who uses their wits. They've got their pike as their weapon, but then they get, starting at tier 1, a Shroud of Flame. They get to spend an intellect point to flame on like Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. At the next level, they get to start hurling flame. Then, the Fiery Hand of Doom, a Sword of Flame, fiery tendrils that go around you. And then level 6 is the max level in this. Another flamey dude that you can summon to your area. So cool, right? But you're spending, look at this, 6 intellect points. You're spending all your HP to use these things. So, you don't get to use them as frequently as you'd like. And to me, that's a bit of a trade-off that I don't really care to see. Also, the rules can be a little opaque when it talks about, like, activating things. You might have an ability that says, spend these points, do this damage. Well, it doesn't tell you that you're going to be required to roll. And you're going to have to do a difficulty that's going to be pretty high if you're facing a pretty powerful opponent. And difficulty is scaled on the level of your opponent. You can bring the difficulty down by spending more HP, more of your pool, to make it easier. However, this really just starts draining your character. You get 1 or 2 really cool moments of awesome, and then you kind of have to conserve. And to me, I just don't care for that flavor. That said, do not think, again, that I am knocking Numenera. So Numenera's got a character creation section that goes on through here. And there are, I want to say by now, a few dozen books, and I've got a ton of them. I'll digress. Okay, so Master's Defense, right? You got a guy who can bear a halo of fire. Let's go back here. It's not in this book. There's one, oh wait, maybe it is. It's called Dives Deep, I think. Let me go back here. Nope, okay. It's not. But it's basically, you have the power to, at your 6th level, remember how bears a halo of fire? You can summon a creature of fire. They're inconsistent. If you choose for your descriptor Dives Deep, your level 6 ability is Hold Your Breath Forever. That's basically it. Some of the capstone abilities don't feel like capstone abilities. As said, gosh, I sometimes open these PDFs up just for the art. Rides the lightning, talks to machines. Okay, so you've got encumbrance rules, weapons rules. Weapons do damage based on like their weight, which is fine. You get I actually do kind of like this static damage for your weapon attacks. So, kind of interesting. Here's another 25 pages of rules. determining task difficulty. I love that GMs don't have to roll. You know, you can roll like secret tables and random events if you want, but like in the game, it's basically players. And that's something that I do in games that I write too. When I create a game, I generally keep so the GM doesn't have to roll. You know, hazard effects here listed. I'm really more of a judgment guy myself, more FKR, you know, free Kriegspiel, than what a lot of this is calling for. Exception-based rules as opposed to, you know, GM fiat and a note about consistency. Calculating jump distance. Some of that is just not like my cup of tea. And if you get into the second edition of Numenera, it's got some pretty interesting rules about like maintaining a settlement, turns it kind of into a management sim, and crafting items, which I'm always down for crafting rules. And I would be remiss in saying I've created some some pretty complex, I like to say sophisticated rather than complex, crafting rules in my day. But as you see, just more rules. It's just it's a lot. Now, we're seeing some very cool lore, by the way, mutants and stuff. These rules here, I've always felt were out of place because they're rules for non-human PC races. Honestly, could have just gone on the character creation segment. But now we get to the setting. Okay, the ninth world. This game is, and its setting is fleshed out in 3 different core books. I want to say 3 bestiaries by now, maybe 4. A book about going to outer space, a book about going into the ocean, a book about some shadow dimension, other planets, a huge atlas of maps, novels, video games, if I didn't already mention those. Tons of absolutely golden material for you to use. The Eon priesthood, which like kind of worships the technology of previous eras. Look at that. Magnificent. The steadfast is going to be kind of like the default setting for a lot of people, and the material here is just full of prompts and adventure setups. You cannot go wrong in using it. What I suggest is, now that we've got a bit of a look-see into Numenera, I suggest that you use Numenera for the lore. That's it. And the story prompts, the adventures, all that. 2400 is a really simple game. And the beauty part about it is that Jason knows how to emulate other games and just kind of distill them to their essence. Exot here, short for like Exotica, doesn't play quite the same as the one based on X-Files or Stranger Things, or the one not based on, but the ones that pay tribute to, the Firefly type, or the one that draws a lot of inspiration from Eclipse Phase, which, by the way, Eclipse Phase is another game that we're going to see in an upcoming video. But this is all you need to play Exotica. Okay? You get a name, you get a trait, which is a lot, if you'll notice, like a descriptor, which are one-word adjectives. So you can actually kind of convert your Numenera characters into exotic characters. So you could be, let's roll up a character and I'll show you. Oh, we need 3. Okay. So what's her name? Satali. Okay. Satali. Oh. The 9. Swift. Ooh. Anyone who knows me knows that I love my speedster characters. Oops. 1. Okay. The Swift Chronicler. Okay. So, your specialty gives you a D8 skill die. You get knife, clothes, a few items. I'm a Swift Chronicler who has a portable terminal with a camera. So basically a smartphone. Cool. I like that. I can work with that. Hell yeah, the Swift has a knife, smartphone, thing, clothes. Okay. That's all it takes to make a character. You don't have to worry about resource pools. You don't have to worry about copying down every skill that you're known for. You get a D8 skill die for one thing. And so the way that works is the dice mechanics from 2400 kind of remind me a little bit of Cortex Plus or Cortex Prime, which I think actually was an inspiration, but don't quote me, where you start out with a default like a D6 and you're rolling, you want to roll a 5 or higher, and the die that you're rolling, it can be upgraded to like a D8, a D10, a D12, I think a D12, but it can also go down to a D4. So, you know, a 1 or 2 is a disaster, and here, you gotta check, this is an important rule. If you're risking death, you die. So, you don't get into combat heedlessly or dangerous situations. You're encouraged to roleplay, use your wits, you know, play it safe, or play it interesting. Setbacks, consequence with partial success, perfect. You can sacrifice your gear or some abilities to save yourself in case you can die or get injured. Yeah, that's right. This is, when your highest die rolls its max, you may turn it into a 1 to gain a new trait, or to add or replace a word in and or raise the die of a trait, specialty, or distinction. So, oh yeah, we don't have our distinction yet. So what's cool about this, I forgot this part. A distinction, that's right. This is a D66 on the second. 26, that's right. So it's right here. Skin studded with jagged crystals. Okay. Swift Chronicler who has skin crystals. Now, that sounds pretty Gene Wolfe to me. When you get your XP, you can add a word to this. Okay, so I could go when I got level up, which again, you have to convert a really fantastic roll into something bad. And it has to happen on your highest possible die. So if you've got, you know, a trait that rolls you a D12, you're only going to be able to do that 1 in 12 rolls as opposed to, you know, 1 in 6 rolls for D6. But I could say skin studded with jagged crystals. I could say something like skin studded with laser jagged crystals, or I could change jagged to laser crystals, and my character would transform a bit. It wouldn't be spiky, you know, so maybe right now, his jagged crystals, they help him, you know, hit harder, or he can use them to climb better, or maybe he can break them off and stick them in things, right? But if I change it, because you can change, add, or delete, to laser crystals, all of a sudden I'm like Cyclops from the X-Men, man. And oh yeah, you get 3 exots, too, which are similar to the artifacts, the ciphers from the cipher system. So boom, boom. 7-Eleven. Let's see, what do we got here? Hydric manipulator. Okay. And I'm pretty sure they're one shot still. 9-12. Mnemonic multiplier. I love that sound. So you are not given complete instructions as to what these things entail. Okay. Psychic manipulator. Okay. So a mnemonic multiplier. Mnemonic means relating to your memory. Multiplier, obviously, create. So what if a mnemonic multiplier is a device that, like, maybe you put it in your ear and it reads a memory from you, and then everyone who, like, you give a high five to in the next minute gets the same selected memory that you have. So you guys all have the same memory. Pretty cool way to communicate. You know, you could say that a hydric manipulator, maybe it lets you make ice sculptures out of water, but it's still flowing like water in your hand, you know, so you got like a knife made out of just flowy water. You know, a sonic shield could be something you scream and it makes like projectiles coming at you just kind of disintegrate in the air. I love it. So there's some rules here on how to use them, when they go away, when you're done. But, I mean, look at these, okay? White hot saliva, cat-sized tardigrade floating nearby. I had a character who had that, and that was a hoot. Detachable head that plugs into any body. A robot bodyguard, stony flesh, suction cupped hands. A faithful cult. So, and then, this is our quest generator. Quest generator here, and then encounter generator here. Very simple. Very simple. Watch. We can do, let's roll a quest with 5 right here. 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we've got 24, 14, 4, 10. Okay, so we've got a settlement name for its Whispering Dungeon. Needs or has new leadership. Is also dangerously close to the Cyclopean Isle. Okay, alright. So, yeah. We've got 2 dangerous spots. A Whispering Dungeon, the Cyclopean Isle, and there's a leadership crisis. Oh boy. Let's roll an encounter. 3, 18, 2, 17, 6. Okay. So, you encounter a dead... Oh, I don't like that. Tripod. Okay. Well, no, it's not undead. 3, 18, 2, 17, 6. With what appears to be bioluminescent tendrils. Nice. And in need of grooming. Okay. Man. So, you can see how the rules in this game support fast play. Players only roll. GMs don't have to. You adjudicate a round of combat with a single roll for each player. You get what you want. You get hurt or not. You use your resources to avoid damage. You get to cleverly upgrade your character. You get the trade-off. Do I want, like, more dice, better dice, or do I want more fictional versatility? You know, you could have, like, I've got my skin studded with jagged crystals. I might not want to change a word. I might just want to upgrade it to a D8, and then a D10, and then a D12, and keep it skin jagged, studded with jagged crystals. Or, I could completely go off the rails. Let's see. Turn into one to gain a new trait. So again, boom, a whole new trait. Or add to or replace a word in or raise the die of a trait, specialty, or distinction. So, again, we've got all this stuff we could work for. You could all of a sudden add the word immortal to your name. You'd probably have to support it with some fiction, obviously, but you wouldn't necessarily get new dice to roll or better dice, but you'd have more fun in the story. You could change a robot bodyguard to 3 robot bodyguards. You could change robot to cyborg, and then cyborg into real people if you wanted to send your little NPCs on a journey. But the point I'm making, enjoy all this lore. But use these rules. Your games will go faster. There's far less resource tracking. And I feel like you'll get the absolute most out of your games. So with that said, we're going to call this one good. I'm going to come back soon. And I think next session, we're going to look at another Jason Tachi game, another 2400 game, actually. How to get the most out of Eclipse Phase. But besides that, we've got plenty more. I've got an episode planned for Mouse Guard and some other systems. So, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a fantastic